There is a moment every single morning that you have been sleeping through, not with your eyes, but with your awareness. It happens before the coffee, before the phone, before the noise of the world rushes in to tell you who to be today. It happens in the first few seconds after your eyes open, when your mind is still soft, still unformed, still deciding what kind of day this is going to become. Most people never notice this moment. They let it pass like a stranger on the street, unacknowledged, unclaimed. But that moment is not empty. It is not neutral. It is the quietest, most powerful hour of your entire life, repeating itself every single day, and almost nobody is paying attention to it. This is the hour that maps your destiny, silently, invisibly, and with more precision than any goal you will write down later in the day. Think about it. You do not consciously choose your first thought when you wake up. It simply arrives. And what arrives in that half-second is not random. It is the residue of everything you have practiced, everything you have believed, everything you have avoided looking at. If your first thought is dread, it is because dread has been rehearsed. If your first thought is a rush toward your phone, it is because distraction has been trained into you as a reflex. If your first thought is a memory of failure or a flash of anxiety about the day ahead, it is because your inner world has been shaped quietly and repeatedly to greet consciousness with fear rather than possibility. And here is the truth that changes everything once you understand it. Whatever meets you first in the morning is not fate. It is pattern, and patterns, unlike fate, can be rewritten. This is not about positive thinking as decoration. This is not about forcing a smile onto a tired face or repeating words you don't believe just to feel better for 5 minutes. This is about something much deeper, the architecture of your inner life, and how the first hour of the day becomes the blueprint the rest of your hours are built upon. When you wake up and immediately hand your attention to something outside of you, a screen, a notification, someone else's opinion, someone else's crisis, you are, without realizing it, handing over the steering wheel of your own mind before you've even had a chance to sit in the driver's seat. You wake up as a blank canvas, and within 60 seconds someone else's paint is already on it. Do this every day for years, and you will look up one day and wonder why your life feels like it was designed by everyone except you. But there is another way. There is a way of waking that reclaims that first hour as sacred territory. Not sacred in a religious sense necessarily, but sacred in the sense that it is protected, honored, treated as too important to be handed away carelessly. This is the way of people who build extraordinary lives, not through luck, not through talent alone, but through the quiet discipline of owning their first hour. They understand something that most people never stop to consider. You do not rise into your day. You rise into your mind. And whatever state your mind is in during that first hour becomes the lens through which every single event of the day will be interpreted. Picture two people waking up to the exact same morning. Same weather, same list of tasks, same problems waiting for them. One person opens their eyes and immediately reaches for their phone, scrolling through other people's highlight reels, other people's arguments, other people's fears, dressed up as news. Within minutes, their nervous system is activated. Their comparison mind is switched on, and they haven't even stood up yet. The second person opens their eyes and simply lies still for a moment. They notice their breath. They notice the weight of their body on the bed. They ask themselves gently, without judgment, what kind of presence do I want to bring into today? These two people will walk into the same world, but they will not be living in the same world. One is reacting, one is choosing, and the space between reacting and choosing, small as it seems, is the space where an entire destiny is quietly written. This is not about perfection. Nobody wakes up every single day with total clarity and grace. Some mornings will be heavy. Some mornings the weight of exhaustion or grief or worry will be so present that all you can do is breathe through it. That is human, and it is not a failure. But even on those mornings, awareness changes something. Even on the heaviest morning, the simple act of noticing, I am carrying something heavy right now and I see it, begins to loosen its grip in a way that unconscious reaction never could. The goal is not to force happiness into every waking moment. The goal is to bring a witness into the room, because the moment you witness a feeling instead of simply becoming it, you have already changed your relationship to it. You are no longer only the storm. You are also the sky that holds the storm. This is where real growth begins. not in the loud, dramatic decisions you make in front of other people, but in the silent, unwitnessed decisions you make when no one is watching, when you are still half inside sleep and half inside waking life. In that in-between space, something ancient in you is still speaking. Call it intuition, call it instinct, call it the quiet voice beneath all the noise of daily performance. It doesn't matter what you call it. What matters is that it is trying to tell you something true about your state, your fears, your desires, your unfinished business. Most people drown that voice out within seconds by grabbing a device or leaping straight into obligation. But if you can learn to sit with it, even for 2 or 3 minutes, you begin to develop a relationship with the part of yourself that knows things your busy, distracted mind does not. This is the beginning of emotional intelligence. Not managing your emotions after they've already taken over your entire day, but meeting them at the source, in that first quiet hour, before they've had the chance to disguise themselves as circumstances. Anxiety that isn't addressed at 6 in the morning doesn't disappear, it waits. It attaches itself to your commute, to a comment from a coworker, to a delay, to a minor inconvenience, and by 10 in the morning you're convinced that the outside world is the problem, when really, you are simply meeting an old, unprocessed feeling wearing a new costume. The first hour is where you get to meet these feelings honestly, in private, without an audience, without the pressure to perform composure. This is where real strength is built. Not the strength of never feeling anything, but the strength of being able to feel everything and still choose your next action with clarity. There is something profoundly freeing in this understanding, because it means your life is not actually being controlled by your circumstances nearly as much as you've been told. It is being shaped hour by hour by the quality of attention you bring to your own inner world. Circumstances will always exist, difficult days will always come. But the person who has trained themselves, morning after morning, to meet their own mind with curiosity instead of avoidance, builds an inner stability that outside events simply cannot shake as easily. This is not magical thinking. This is the simple, observable truth that the mind is trainable the same way a body is trainable, and the first hour after waking is the gym where that quiet, invisible training happens every single day, whether you show up for it or not. Consider what it means to silently map a destiny. A destiny is not a single dramatic decision made on a mountaintop. It is the accumulation of 1,000 small mornings, each one either strengthening the same old grooves or slowly carving new ones. If every morning for 10 years you have woken up and immediately fed yourself urgency, comparison, and distraction, you will, without ever consciously choosing it, become a person who is defined by urgency, comparison, and distraction. Not because you are broken, but because that is what repetition does. It builds identity out of habit, patiently, silently, without asking your permission. And if that is true, and it is, then it is also true in the other direction. If every morning you offer yourself even a few minutes of stillness, honesty, and intention, you are, without needing any dramatic turning point, slowly becoming a person defined by stillness, honesty, and intention. The destiny is not being handed to you from somewhere outside. It is being built by you, quietly, in a room most people don't even know exists. This is why so many people feel like their life is happening to them, rather than being shaped by them. They are living entirely in reaction, reacting to the phone, reacting to the calendar, reacting to other people's moods, reacting to the pressure of arriving somewhere on time. And reaction, by its very nature, is always one step behind. It never initiates, it only responds. A life built entirely on reaction can be busy, even successful by outside measures, and still feel hollow, because somewhere, deep inside, the person knows they never actually chose any of it. They were simply carried along by momentum that started the moment their alarm went off and their hand reached for a screen before their eyes had even fully adjusted to the light. But you were not built only to react. You were built with the capacity to pause, to notice, to choose. That capacity is not reserved for monks or philosophers or people with unusually calm lives. It is available to anyone, in any circumstance, the moment they decide the first hour of the day belongs to them and not to whatever demands the loudest attention. This does not require hours of free time. It does not require a perfect quiet house or an empty schedule. It requires a shift in what you consider worthy of your attention in those first waking minutes. It requires deciding, even briefly, that your own inner state matters enough to check in on before you hand yourself over to the demands of the day. Something remarkable happens when you begin doing this consistently. You start to notice things about yourself you never had the stillness to notice before. You start to see which thoughts are actually yours and which ones are borrowed, inherited fears, second-hand opinions, old wounds dressed up as personality traits. You start to recognize the difference between a genuine desire and a habitual craving. You start to feel in your body the subtle difference between excitement and anxiety, even though they can feel almost identical at first. This kind of self-recognition doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you have created a small, protected space each morning where you are finally listening instead of performing, observing instead of reacting. This inner listening is where real confidence is born, not the confidence of pretending to have it all together, but the quieter, sturdier confidence of actually knowing yourself. A person who spends 5 minutes a day honestly checking in with their own mind will, over months and years, develop a kind of self-trust that no external achievement can manufacture. They will know their own patterns well enough to catch themselves before old habits run the show. They will recognize when fear is disguising itself as practicality, when avoidance is disguising itself as busyness, when self-criticism is disguising itself as high standards. This recognition is not about self-judgment. It is about self-honesty, which is a very different and far more powerful thing. Judgment shrinks you, honesty frees you, and this is where the deeper transformation begins to happen. Not in loud external achievements, but in the quiet reclaiming of your own attention. Because attention, more than time, more than money, more than talent, is the resource that actually shapes a life. Wherever your attention goes first thing in the morning is where your energy will follow for the rest of the day. If your attention goes first to other people's lives, your energy will spend itself in comparison. If your attention goes first to worry about the future, your energy will spend itself in anxiety. If your attention goes first to the list of everything you haven't done yet, your energy will spend itself in a quiet, grinding sense of never being enough. But if your attention goes first, even briefly, to your own breath, your own body, your own intentions, your energy has a chance to gather itself before the world starts pulling it in 100 directions. This is not indulgent. This is not selfish. This is maintenance. The same way you would never expect a car to run well without ever checking the engine. And yet most people will spend more time each morning checking their phone than checking in with their own mind, and then wonder, weeks or months later, why they feel disconnected from themselves, why they feel like a stranger is living their life for them. The first hour is where that reconnection happens if you let it. It doesn't require anything elaborate. It can be as simple as sitting on the edge of the bed for 2 minutes before standing up, breathing slowly, and asking yourself honestly, how am I actually feeling right now? Underneath everything, that single question asked sincerely can do more for your day than an hour of forced positivity ever could, because it starts from truth instead of performance. From that truth, intention can finally take root. Not the kind of intention that is really just pressure wearing a nicer name. I have to be productive today. I have to be better today. But the kind of intention that comes from genuine self-awareness. I notice I'm anxious about a conversation today, so I want to move through this morning gently. I notice I'm excited about a project, so I want to protect that energy instead of letting it get drained by distraction. This kind of intention is not rigid. It bends with reality. It is not a demand placed on the day. It is a compass placed inside you, so that no matter what the day throws at you, you have a reference point to return to. People who build extraordinary lives in any field, in any culture, throughout history, tend to share this in common. Not luck, not even raw talent, but a relationship with themselves that is honest and consistently tended to. They understand that the outer world can only be navigated well when the inner world has been acknowledged first. This is not mysticism. This is simply the recognition that a distracted, unexamined mind makes distracted, unexamined decisions, while a mind that has been given even a few minutes of honest attention each morning tends to make choices with more clarity, more patience, and more alignment with what actually matters to that person. And here is something worth sitting with for a moment. The first hour is not only about calming yourself down. It is also about waking yourself up, fully, honestly, courageously. There is a kind of sleep that has nothing to do with closed eyes. It is the sleep of moving through your days on autopilot, letting habits and old fears drive the car while you sit in the back seat, half present, telling yourself you'll really start living once things settle down, once this stressful period passes, once conditions are perfect. But conditions are never perfect. The first hour after waking is your daily invitation to stop waiting for perfect conditions and instead meet your actual life, exactly as it is, with open eyes and an open, honest heart. This kind of waking is not comfortable at first. Self-honesty rarely is. It is far easier to reach for a screen than to sit with an uncomfortable feeling. It is far easier to fill the silence with noise than to ask yourself a question you're not sure you're ready to answer. But comfort and growth have never lived in the same room for very long. Every person who has ever built a life they were genuinely proud of has at some point had to choose the harder, quieter path of self-honesty over the easier, louder path of distraction. And the beautiful thing is, this choice does not need to be made once, dramatically, in some defining moment. It can be made small every single morning, in the first hour, long before anyone else is even awake to witness it. Nobody applauds you for sitting quietly with your own breath for 3 minutes before checking your phone. Nobody gives you an award for noticing your anxious thought and choosing not to feed it. This work is invisible. It happens in a room with no audience. And that is exactly why it is so powerful, because it means you are doing it for reasons that have nothing to do with performance and everything to do with genuine transformation. The parts of your life that no one sees are usually the parts that shape the parts everyone does see. The morning you spend in honest self-awareness is the invisible root system beneath the visible tree of your entire day. Over time, this daily practice compounds in ways that are almost impossible to notice in the moment but undeniable when you look back. A single morning of stillness will not change your life, but 1,000 mornings will. This is the same principle behind every meaningful transformation in nature and in human effort. Small, consistent, unglamorous actions, repeated with patience, until one day the result is so large it looks like it happened overnight, even though it was built quietly, morning by morning, for years. The tree did not grow in a single season. The river did not carve the canyon in a single storm. And your character, your resilience, your emotional intelligence, your sense of purpose, none of these are built in a single dramatic moment either. They are built, morning by morning, in the way you choose to meet yourself before the world has a chance to tell you who to be. This is why the first hour deserves to be protected, not with rigid perfectionism, but with genuine respect. You do not need to wake up at a specific time or follow a specific routine to make this hour meaningful. What matters is not the exact shape of the ritual, but the quality of attention you bring to it. Some mornings this might look like sitting quietly and breathing. Other mornings it might look like writing down whatever is on your mind without censoring it. Other mornings it might simply look like pausing before reaching for your phone and asking, is this really how I want to begin today? There is no single correct formula. What matters is the intention behind it, the decision that your inner state, in that first hour, is worth noticing before it gets buried under the demands of the outside world. And as this practice deepens over weeks and months, something quietly extraordinary begins to happen. You start to notice that the rest of your day feels different, not because the day itself has changed, but because you have changed the lens through which you're meeting it. Challenges that once felt overwhelming start to feel manageable, not because they've become smaller, but because you've become steadier. Conversations that once triggered old defensive reactions start to feel navigable, because you've spent time in the morning getting honest with the parts of yourself that usually react without thinking. Even ordinary moments, a walk, a meal, a conversation with someone you love, start to feel more vivid, because you are actually present for them, instead of half-living them while your mind churns through yesterday's worries or tomorrow's obligations. This is what it means to silently map a destiny. Not through grand declarations, not through pressure and forced ambition, but through the quiet, repeated choice to meet yourself honestly before meeting the world. Destiny, in this sense, is not something written for you by fate or circumstance. It is something written by you, one honest morning at a time, in a language made of small decisions that no one else will ever see or applaud. The distraction you decline, the breath you take before reacting, the truth you allow yourself to feel instead of numbing, the intention you set, gently, without pressure, before the noise of the day begins. You do not need to change your entire life today. You do not need a perfect morning routine, a perfect mindset, or a perfect version of yourself waiting on the other side of this. What you need is simpler and far more available than that. The willingness, tomorrow morning, to pause for even a few minutes before the world claims your attention, and to ask yourself, honestly and without judgment, who you actually are beneath the noise, and who you actually want to be today. That question, asked sincerely, morning after morning, is quietly one of the most powerful forces available to any human being. It costs nothing, it requires no special circumstances. It simply requires your willingness to show up for yourself before you show up for anyone or anything else. So tomorrow, when your eyes open, before your hand reaches for anything outside of you, let there be one breath that belongs only to you. Let there be one honest moment where you check in with what's actually happening inside you, without trying to fix it or perform it, just to witness it. Let there be one small intention, chosen gently, that you carry with you into the rest of the day. This is not a grand gesture. It will not look impressive to anyone watching, because no one will be watching. But it is, quietly and truly, one of the most powerful acts available to you, the daily decision to meet yourself first, honestly and with care, before you meet the world. And it is in that small, unseen decision, repeated morning after morning, that a destiny is not predicted but built.